Hey everybody, welcome to the Jupiter and Hannibal show.
I'm Jupiter.
And I'm Hannibal, not the lecturer.
Oh, so we're doing a signature dance as well. All right. So there must be something that's driving that dance. Is it something in your cup that is driving that dance?
I'm from the
Oh, you
South.
have a so you have a red Dixie cup. Oh,
Always a red cup, okay?
okay. So it's like we're at a college keg party. Cool. Well, I have a glass cup here.
Mm, mm, mm.
I try to be a little bit more refined and bring something different to the audience. Um, you clearly will be bringing that very southern flair uh, that I'm not really comfortable with all the times, but I am learning more about it. Uh, a lot of that comes from my trip to Jackson, Mississippi, as of recent,
Tell
where
us
I
about your
learned
trip down south. Tell us what
I,
you
I was very down south. I have never been to Mississippi before, and I hump back. I don't even think I spelled that properly. I
you
think it
spelt it
needed more
wrong.
S's.
Say
I
it with
think I
me.
needed more.
Say it
I
with me.
needed.
M-I, cricket letter I, cricket letter I, humpback I. I think I put too many S's in it.
I don't think I put enough S's. Well, either way, I was in Jackson, Mississippi at Black
Mm.
Gay Pride down there. It was a very fun event. There was, which is hosted by
My
my brother's
brother's keeper.
keeper.
Yeah.
Yes. And so
Wonderful
there was
organization.
a health summit that was going on Friday morning, which included different classes you can go to. One was on church hurt, another one was talking about depression, anxiety, and stress. Another one was talking about getting your finances together. I think it was called Get That Bag. And there was another one that was about safe sex. But if you were being like, I know people get offended by this word, but it was just like basically be safe sex if you want to be a hoe. And I know that some people are offended by being called a hoe because it is their right, their body, their choice. But it was basically saying if you are going to be out there thotting it up, there are different things you could do in a safe way to keep yourself and your multiple partners safe. And then we got to Friday night and we went to this
Tell us
restaurant.
about it.
The restaurant was absolutely tragic. The food was bad. The service was amazing. The service was amazing. I can tell you, the service made up for the food. But to sit down and have a plate of food in front of you that you are trying to eat, and your server clearly realizes they didn't give you enough food and or appetizers and or alcohol for you not to complete your meal. But they were so nice and friendly. It was nice that the restaurant was across street from the hotel, but it was horrendous. Do I have to talk about the hotel?
Just a quick little snippet of the hotel so we can move on to the next piece.
For the Hilton, it wasn't giving me Hilton energy at all. It was absolutely terrible. There was a leak clearly in the wall somewhere coming from the roof. And so the hallway smelled like mildew. They had this fan blowing 24 hours a day trying to dry this wall up. And that was Hilton. So on Saturday, there was a Pride Parade day party. Well, technically, because it was so cold outside, they did not have a parade outside where people were walking around with bands, floats, and stuff like that. So this was a party inside where there was performances, and that was also hosted by my brother's keeper as well. They were selling plates of food. That's something that is not very used to coming from up north, Brooklyn. That's here is. Having whole plates of food, eating in the club is not something that I'm very used to, but I'm realizing that in the South, you are supposed to have a whole meal while enjoying a drag show.
Did you get
And
a pork chop sandwich for me while you were in there?
I did not get a poke chop sandwich for not even myself. I do not eat meat. I am pescatarian. But uh, it was, they were frying chicken outside the door of the bar, which I was also not used to. But everyone was friendly. I did have a good time. The music was really, really good. And I could say that Southern hospitality was there. Then
Awesome.
Sunday night was another experience. And that experience was a very young experience. And I realized that at 45 years old, I am not built to be going to a club at 12:30 at night, staying there until 3 a.m. in the morning. Because the next
Mhm.
day, yeah. I know
Let
we
me
talked about
tell
church
you.
hurt, but I'm talking about old hurt is a different hurt to get
Let
out
me
of
tell you.
it the
At
next
12:30
day.
at night, I'm trying to get back in my bed. I hear it calling me by the thunder. Okay. I'm too old to be out of 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. Mama used to
So
say,
the
"Ain't
skit,
never open that late but Popeyes, baby." And they ain't got nothing but legs and thighs that time of night. They ain't got nothing
I didn't
else.
even think Popeyes was open in Jackson. But what I do know was I had to walk around the hotel room. I said to myself, if I sit on this bed, I'm going to sleep and I'm not going to make it back out the club. So I am pacing the room to keep myself up from about 10:30 to about 11:15 because I just felt the sleep was coming on. It was like old man was knocking on my door and he was not going to stop knocking until I opened it up. So I stayed off of the bed so I could stay awake. And like I said, going out at that time of night is a young man's game. It really is. You do things like you take the drink and you're like yawning, the drink in front of you so that nobody notices that. Um, I'm not a big dancer, so I was kind of like trying to keep my eyes open wide just focus on the fact that you have to stay awake and you have to stay alert and you have to look like you're happy to be here at this time of night when clearly I was like, this was really fun, but I don't know how much longer we could take this.
So
So
Jupiter,
after about, yes.
tell me, how old were the people in there? Was it like our age
No, no,
or
no, 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 no. This was a 21 to probably about 35 age group that was
mm.
there.
So
And so getting
let
there
me
at
guess.
12:30, there weren't a lot of people there, but they started piling in about 1:15, 2 o'clock. And we left about they 3:15, and there were people still coming to the bar. Like people
Oh
took our
wow.
parking space. And that's why I said this is a young man crowd that's coming out this time of night.
So let me ask you then. So what do you think has changed the dynamic of the club life in the South? Like, and so I know when I first started going out, I lived in Alaska when I really first started going out and partying, especially in the life. And in the life is an old word. That's what we used to say 90s and 2000s. When I was first in the life, um, I went out to the gay bars that I did what typical people do. I was in the military, but I did what typical people would do. I got me old fake ID because I had somebody who hooked me up with old fake ID. So, gravy. I'm in the club and everything. But what I noticed about back then and to now is like the difference in our 20 something year old and this new 20 something year old. Because back then we actually talked when we were out in the club. You feel me? We actually
I mean,
talked.
my 20-year-old self going to college in Buffalo, New York, and my 20-year-old self living in Atlanta right after the Olympics uh, is it's around the same time of not having the apps around. And
Hmm.
so I remember at that time, well, I'll go before that. Well, before you said you was in the life, a lot of people said you were a friend of Dorothy. I think I remember that being one of the terms too. Yeah, you were a
Yes.
friend of Dorothy. And that kind of told people she was gay. So that was another thing I remember saying up north. It was like, oh, is he a friend of Dorothy? Uh, but the thing is, I remember going out in my 20s, early 20s, and there were small little things that bars did that they just don't do anymore. They used to have like business cards where you could put your name on it, and they had those little like what do you call them? The little pencils that people use if they're gonna go golfing. It doesn't have an eraser on it, like little short pencils. and they
Right,
would
right.
have those at the bar. So like if you met, so it was the fun part was to go out and how many phone numbers could you get from being in this one bar? And then you go to another one and you're just like, oh, I got six numbers today. Oh, I got seven, you know. So it was that type of thing. I think that now going out for their 20s, it's being on the apps while out being social.
Like, how
So
antisocial is that though? You know, like I just remember like sitting. So I don't know if I can mention the name of this bar on here. If I can't, then we'll edit it out later. But I remember sitting at Mad Murners in Alaska, which was an amazing bar back then and still is an amazing bar to this day. And I remember sitting at the big bar and I was like, wow, I got my drink and I would chill and people would actually come up to you and they would talk to you or they'll sit down and that was your conversation piece and you learn to interact with people like that. And it wasn't always a conversation about let's hook up or nothing like that. Sometimes it was just like let me talk to you, and then you make your connections across the way. And I feel that this younger generation, and I ain't knocking the young kids because y'all do what y'all do. Y'all have stepped out in a way that we couldn't step out 20, 30 years ago. Y'all
no,
just stepped
didn't
all the way
exist.
out, and I love it. I love your
It didn't
rainbow.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your rainbow. I see y'all walking in the Walmart down here holding hands and
Mhm.
stuff. It's amazing to me
It's a
where we
neon rainbow now. It's a neon rainbow. When we were more
right.
construction paper rainbow, this is the neon rainbow going on to
This
stage.
is this is where Dorothy was trying to go. She was trying to get here, okay? And y'all done
She's
took us
looking for
right
her
on across the
friends.
river. But like I can remember how social we really were. And we talked about this earlier about how, we used to be on gay.com in the chat room, and then gay.com was good, but your better chat session was on Yahoo. If you could get in the
Hmm.
little Yahoo chat room, and it was just a nice way of you got to know people, and it wasn't so much about looks because in the Yahoo room you didn't have a picture. All you have
No.
some catchy scream name with a description out beside it. And that description was like 6 characters. So how do
Or
you
you had a
describe yourself
screen
in 6?
name. Yeah. Or you had a screen name that we thought was provocative. And then in parentheses, you tried to explain what that screen name was. And then for that person to go, oh, I get it. Uh, the the fact that we took it
23B.
from there. Hmm.
Mhm.
But the thing is, we took something from there. And what
Yes.
we took from there was we talked here and then we met up for a drink at the local bar. We
Right.
talked and then we met up for lunch. Or I don't remember the last time a man has actually bought me a drink in the bar. Now I bought my friends drinks. My friends have bought me drinks, but somebody at the end of the bar that saw me and smiled and bought me a drink, like that doesn't happen. Or just walking up to a group of people and being able to talk to them and have a conversation. Where now it's like, if I don't know these girls, I'm not gonna walk up to them because they're not gonna talk to me. And if they are, it's gonna be a very awkward conversation to end with, when you walk away, they're laughing and talking about you. So
Right.
it just doesn't, the friendliness, it doesn't feel like it's there in the gay bars when people are mostly on their phones, on the apps while they're hanging out with their friends. So I think that that's their social aspect, is that I'm talking to my friends, so I'm being social with them. But when it comes to actually talking to somebody that I might be interested in, then I stay on the app and text that person while I'm in the bar, because that person's never been, say, 20 feet away from me before. They may have been 5 miles away from me, 25 miles away from me. And so now I know what you look like. But now I see your friends and I really don't want to talk to you, but I'm going to talk to you through this app. So, like you said, that interpersonal situation is now taken away because we're so wrapped up into not right
So I'm gonna give you a real throwback, right? So mind you, like I came out, well, I guess my first coming out was in Alaska. My more recent coming out was in Alabama. But anyway, I remember we used to have these chat lines, right? And you got the numbers out the gay bar in the little books on the little
The little
On
fat
a little
vans that
format.
they had. Yes. Uh-huh.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So you got like 12 numbers you can dial for for your area. And I remember like how scared I was the first time I dialed the number because I didn't know, right? I'm still trying to figure out who am I, what am I doing, and all this. But I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna dial the number. So anyway, long story short, these kids don't know nothing about long distance dialing now. You know, I had a cell phone, and at that time, the numbers for Alaska was down in Seattle, and numbers, the Seattle numbers was long distance for us. Anyway, I dialed the numbers through my little 10 cent a minute code to get my recording. But what was so interesting was that we actually were able to describe ourselves, right? And describe ourselves in such a way that a person wanted to reach back out to us. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, they had those the 1-800 numbers. And it's interesting because there was also those same numbers were for straight people, but they had those commercials on at 2 o'clock in the morning. Pick up the phone, call now. Hot singles waiting to talk to you. But
Right.
the crazy part is when you do look back at the times when we had those phone things, we were still like facing a lot of toxic masculinity back then
Hmm.
because you didn't get on the phone sounding real, real ladylike. You got on the phone. I remember for some reason I thought Kevin was just like the best name in the world. Don't ask me why. So I just be like, hey, how's it going? This is Kevin. And of course you got to lie about your age because I came out a lot younger than most people did. So I was like, hey, what's going on? I'm Kevin. I'm 21. I'm an NYU student. I'm 5'6", 135 pounds, brown skin complected. People say I'm caramel. Like you came up with all of this knowing I don't sound like this and trying to
Just
figure out how
lied.
am I going to sound like this all the time. So in a sense, that was my way of saying, okay, well, the voice wasn't real, but everything else about me is real. Well, I wasn't at NYU. I was still in high school. And
You was in a New York school. That's close enough.
I was in a New York school. Like, I went to a school that was funded by the state of New York. So leave me alone. Uh, but you had this thing where it's like I said, this toxic masculinity where we had to sound a certain way to attract guys to us. And as you get older, you realize that trying to attract men to you becomes even more complicated because the people you're attracting to you don't know who they are. So they have set up a profile online now where you can put up whatever photos you want. I put up the best photo. So I have a photo that's backlit better, or I take a photo that's low so you don't see my belly too much, or I take a high photo so I look taller. Like, or when you ever see those profiles when somebody took a picture and they're like this far back, and you're just like, nobody can't see you. What are you doing? Like, just stop it. Like, what's going on? Um, it's the things we're doing to attract. My grandmother
Mhm.
used to always say, it's not what you're saying, it's who you're being. And the sad part is, who are we being when we're trying to fool people? Or what are we doing when we're putting these ads up?
Right.
That, what are we trying to attract? Because we're saying one thing, but we're doing something else. I want to be in a serious relationship, but I have, nothing but genitalia shots up and no face pic. But I'm saying I want to be in a long-term relationship with somebody who's down to earth that's gonna be real. You're
Hmm.
saying one thing, but you're being another girl.
And then it's like once you get on the app, like I still have a hard time on the apps. I feel more old school than anything. I like to go, and when we hang out, I like to go to the bar, cheese it up with the bartenders, cheese it up with people, because to me the apps don't work for me. I want that human interaction. I want to still be able to laugh and talk with people and get to know you in there. That courtship, really, right? And what I realize is that so many people don't want that anymore. They want to be boom, 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 because everything's so instant in today. And that's why you don't know that you're in bed with a serial killer.
Or the fact that people say they want to get to know you, but I've learned that there is a certain online speech that nobody wants to talk about. And you don't learn it in schools. And so things like sup doesn't really say anything. Or if you ask somebody a question, how are you doing? And their answer is horny, that's not how you're doing. So I feel
And you
like
would never
I'm not
say
gonna,
that to me on the street. I would never say, "What's up?" and you'd be like, "Horny."
right. Or if I said, hey, can you send me a picture for your contact in my phone and they send you an ass shot? That's not normal. Like that's not like you knew what I asked for. And clearly I've seen these pictures plastered online. So there it is then. But yes, it's just very odd. Or I feel like sometimes when you're on these apps, people are very negative and aggressive at the same time. It's like, and don't be saying this, and you better be this, and I ain't got time for games, and I ain't taking care of you, and I'm not paying for the live. Slow down. If
Like,
this is what you have to put in your profile to keep a certain select people away from you, maybe you should get off this app. And when
exactly.
you got to put all caps in things and you are so aggressive about, oh, and I ain't got time for people who play games because I'm not a child no more. I'm grown. I take it. Okay, then maybe this is not the place for you.
And you know
If
what?
you want
If
to
you
get your rocks off, go somewhere else.
right, because if you really are grown, I mean, grown people attract grown people. You know what I mean? Unless you're looking for someone who's not grown, and then that's a whole nother issue that you may want to take up with your local district attorney. But in all in all fashions, I believe that these apps and things just kind of ruin the interaction. And I'm sorry, I don't want Meta, Google, Apple, y'all don't come for me. I'm broke, ain't got none. You'll be wasting your little legal time. I ain't got none. Got a couple
you
of
won't
couple of
you
old
won't go in. This case is gonna get dismissed. It's a waste of your time.
ain't got nothing but a Chevrolet.
Don't
That's
take
it.
down our
I'm
little
from the
channel.
country.
It's not gonna do nothing. We'll just pop up
No.
under a new name. It's okay.
You
So
see, we
that's
can't even
that.
get real backdrops. Okay,
Yeah,
we got to blur our backdrop and put an old picture of the old bridge up there. I ain't even never been to the bridge. Don't even know if it's real or not. They say it is. Anyway, I just believe these apps ruin our connections. Like, I can just remember, like, even when I left Alaska and I moved to California, I just remember, like, me and my friend out there, Tommy, we met in I think Tommy was working for Gap at the time in this rural area of Southern California. And it was easy for us to be like, "Hey, how you doing? Oh, cool. I'm new here." It was nothing to say, "I'm new here. I just moved here with the military, with the Air Force, blah, 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 blah." And Tommy said to me, he said, "Oh, cool. Well, let's go out and have a drink, baby. I'll show you around." And we were like the same age. And Tommy and I became really good friends. You know what I mean? And I feel like today you can't make those connections anymore. And maybe it's because we're now the old heads, right? We are
but
technically the old heads.
I like to say I've been in this business a long time, but I,
What you're not gonna do is disqualify you as an old head. Say it. I'm an
I
old head.
have been I have been in this business a long time. That's the only thing I can say. I have been in the business of men a long time. And in these years, yes, I can say that I do have some very strong friendships that I've had since I was like 16, 17, 18 years old. So those friends are still around. We all still don't live in Brooklyn anymore. We spread out throughout the world and stuff like that. But what is interesting is that there are certain things that were being done before. And I can bring back my first experience of living in Atlanta to my recent experience living in Atlanta. Before, people went to brunch or people would meet at somebody's house on a Sunday and have a barbecue. And then we would go back home and change and then meet up at Loretta's. Or now those places aren't here anymore. And so now, yes, I came back and, almost 20 years later, but I came back with a child. So it was like now I was seeing Atlanta from the eyes of a little kid. But still as an adult, there are certain things that just aren't there, or you have to be in certain circles. And so if you're not like these A-list gay guys, you don't get invited to these things. And, if you don't dress a certain way, then people won't be attracted to you because they don't feel like you're giving them something. So I think those type of, like I said, small town things that I feel like you said, like in Alaska, or like when I was in Buffalo and I was up there going to college, it was nothing for somebody to just say, hey, come over and hang out.
Right.
Oh, we're doing something. They like a
I, rem-
potluck, bring something to eat, bring something to drink, and you knew that. Now
I
people don't bring
remember.
anything to drink. You couldn't go to no one's house without bringing a bottle or something. Now people
You
just come to
talk
your
about
house
it.
with their arms crossed,
And to go
and they want to take
containers
pictures. And they want to take pictures in your house. It's just so
in your bathroom. You like, girl, that's my bathroom on Instagram. Get it off of there.
weird.
But like I remember being like 18, 19, and so Alaska is a beautiful place to live, and the population of Black people is very small, or was at that time, but the population of Black gay men was even smaller, right? And so they used to have this like monthly party when I was in Alaska, and it kind of rotated from one person to the next. You just heard the schedule kind of around the way, right? And so I remember getting invited there, and it was nothing, it was not pretentious at all. It was just brothers and a couple of Black sisters that was there. And we laughed and talked, had good food, we played games, and they put you on to some of the craziness that you might be wanting to, that you might experience. And that's where I first learned about trusting your network, because the people
Mm.
can honestly save your life. And I feel that a lot of these young people, they're not making the connections now that could one day save their life because they're not interacting in the same manner. Everything's like boop, 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 boop. Oh, I'll see you in 10 minutes. I met this person 30 minutes ago online and we're best friends now for life, getting our names tattooed on us, headed to their house. It wasn't like that.
Or the
Before
other thing that I could say that I noticed about before was uh, you were able to establish friendships, but there was a code in those friendships that really wasn't spoken. But it would just be a situation. Well, if that's your ex, he can't really be my man too. We had certain codes. And I think now a lot of young people and people our age as well are kind of having a lot of their friendship circles are built with exes and fuck buddies and, side pieces are all kind of intermingling in friends. So everybody has kind of got their toe and their foot and their elbow in the same pond. And so to me, I feel like it's hard to have those friendships. One of my closest friends that I've known for years, I don't use the word best friend because I just wasn't used to it, but he's more like a brother to me. I knew his mother, he knew mine. Like we were that kind of close. But what I knew about that was like that was just always my friend. Like it was nothing else. Like we were not the same person. We didn't dress alike. We still don't dress alike. We don't date the same types of men. Like we just were friends, and that's what I think sometimes you can't have if I'm sleeping with my ex and he's got a boyfriend and we all hang out and we got the smallest group of friends. Like you said, how can I trust that we can have some kind of openness and I can be vulnerable when I know that we're all kind of gunning for the same thing, which is whatever I want. It's a
Mhm.
very selfish thing. Like I'm gonna get what I want out of a friendship. So if my friendship doesn't include clout, and if my friendship doesn't include your discount at Macy's, or my friendship doesn't include your Kroger card, like it's just something. It just the friendships are very kind of fly by night.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's an old term for you, a fly by night. Hmm.
True, true. I mean, and one of the old things that I was taught real early in the game was don't go behind your friends. You know, if your friends have been with this person, don't go behind them. There's enough people in this town for you to date someone and you don't go behind your friend. And so I still use that same method to today, especially close friends.
Hmm.
What I have noticed is that sometimes relationships with friends and a person shouldn't have worked out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And if you have a strong enough connection with the person that's separated, maybe you can have that conversation with your friend. But if it's gonna come down to your friend in that relationship, then you need to make a permanent decision. If you're gonna be with your friend or if you're gonna try this relationship. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna stick with my friend because I
And it's
know.
the same. I think it's the same when you get into relationships with people. Sometimes when you date somebody who their ex is their close friend, and now their ex is single, and now they're dating you, and sometimes I'm like, I don't really want to see your ex all the time. And I know that y'all are friends, and I'm not saying y'all should stop being friends, but I just don't really want to hang out with you and your ex.
And it's weird because in my mind, if I'm dating you and your ex is always around, then you about to make me get crazy. Like I'm about to get
And I
real
know
crazy.
that they love to say, oh no, we've moved on, and I get all of that. It's just still the thing of you are a constant reminder. And we are all human. I know half of you sizing me up trying to figure out why he went a better model than you. I don't know. But the reality is, it's just there. And you can't say, oh, you're insecure. That's such an easy cop out to say that somebody's insecure because you can't date somebody who's really close friends with their ex. I don't want your ex to know what's going on in our personal business. And I think that's
Right.
another thing that when it comes to friendship codes that I remember learning early on was don't talk about your man until you break up with him. Because there's no need to say all these things about him and y'all stick together. Because when something really does happen, your friends will be like, I don't want to hear that. Because all you're going to do is go back to this fool. So if you telling this friend of yours, oh, he good and bad and he this and that, then when he sleep with your man, you can't get mad because you gave him a blow by blow of what's going on. Yeah, we
And
have a good sex life. That's where it ends.
mhm. And when you tell some of these frenemies that, oh, he does this, he does that, da 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 da, they up there calculating like, well, what can I put up with? Because this model I got over here is a mess. So I think I'm gonna help get into your model because you don't want your model,
Right, you don't.
you know?
You don't realize how lucky you are because this one ain't worked in 2 years, and you
Right,
mad because he worked in 6 months. Yeah, I see. She ain't built for it. And you're like,
right,
no.
right. This will sit around and play video games all day. Don't even pick up his own controllers. No.
But then this goes back to the whole thing about us talking about meeting people online. Now, you had those kind of like one night stands were different too. Meaning, like you met a guy, he stayed over, you made breakfast the next day, you may go chill in the city or something like that. It wasn't so, oh, here your underwear. I gotta work tomorrow. Oh, okay, because I thought you didn't work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. It's Tuesday night, but okay, go. I don't mind going home, but it's just the way you did it. And
Mhm.
so, with the apps telling you that I need instant gratification, once I have been gotten what I needed instantaneously, now I don't need to have you around. So I don't need to be nice. And
Right.
then
And then
somehow you gotta expect that 2 months later you go, hey stranger. And it's like, I've been found. I ain't strange. Like I know who I am. You the stranger.
I was
And oh,
emancipated,
I've
sir.
been a long time ago. And now you're like, oh, I've been so busy. Okay. Busy doing what?
Playing a
And we're
video game
supposed
on
to,
their
yeah,
mama's
we're
phone.
supposed to, right. We got to understand those things. And that's the thing too, is like, what will we accept? Between meeting him on an app, what are we accepting from him on an app? And then when we get off the app and we're supposedly trying to date this person, what are the steps have we taken? Do we have any courtship anymore? Because you brought that up earlier. Courtship seems to be like the initial meeting, where before
Courtship
courtship
is
was you were talking to somebody, then you were dating
no
somebody, then he was
court
your man.
courtship is when you log in and you be like, yo, yo, what's up? What's good, shorty? Oh, blah 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 blah. Oh, you how many miles away? Bet, son. Da 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 da. So you just courted that person now. You courted them in words. But you know,
Wait, wait,
back
wait,
in my day,
wait. They're also gonna ask you, you got smoked? You got some?
yo, can you swing by the BP and pick us up some White Owl? You know, give me the pineapple one. I like that pineapple. Get 2 packs of them. And you know, when you pull in the yard, my weed man gonna be down there. So you know, if you can get us some weed, we gonna chill. Well, would you like me to go to Kroger and pick up your buffet also, so that you can have some munchies?
Because
Go
it's
ahead.
true. I have been on it. I have gone to somebody's house and they had company, which was the weed man that just sit on the couch with him. Couldn't find out the weed man was gay too, and I didn't realize that she was actually the third. Well, actually the fourth because the roommate came home. So I was like, so basically, there's five of us sitting in this living room, and I'm trying to figure out why did I come over here to sit on this couch? I don't want to be in here. I don't want to watch this Japanese anime. I don't want to like. I don't want to be here. How did this turn into me coming to your house? Turn into like you said, a grocery list of things to do. Plus, I have to put up with the fact that you have other people in the house. Like, come on, I'm too old for this.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Absolutely. I just wish we could go back to the days, like you said, sitting at the bar with that little card. I even got some of those cards now because they were popular up until like maybe 2008, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were
They were.
popular because you knew exactly where you met this person at. So even in your foggy memory from the night before, you be like, oh, that's that person I met at the Monster. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
that person I met at Chi Chi's, you know, bet. And
Yes,
you know,
cheese,
I
cheese,
used to
sweet
write on the
potatoes.
card. I used to write on the card. I'd be like red shirt, black kicks, you know, because I need to know who you are in the morning if I choose
Mm-hmm.
to call you or not. So I miss those days. I miss it. I think
Oh, and remember the bars used to have like those little drink tokens?
yes.
Because you were there during a time when you had 2 for 1s and stuff like that. Now everybody goes out so much later. But I remember it was the thing that you worked your little 9 to 5. And because I lived in Brooklyn, I worked in the city. I wasn't gonna go all the way home, so I had a little something to change into. I had a different shirt, or I changed my shoes, and then you went out for drinks after work or whatever, and then you had something light to eat. You went back home, so you spent a lot of time away from home. And then when you meet people that say I'm a homebody, and you go, well, what are you doing in the house? Because I lived in this big city of New York. You want to get out. I don't just want to sit in the house all the time. And oh, you remember like we had dating seasons where basically about this time, about after Labor Day till about now, you had to kind of get you your little homie lover friend that was going to be gonna get you through these winter months because you know it's
Yeah,
a little
just
too cold
snuggle
to be
buddy.
pumping it. Yeah, it's gonna be too cold to be pumping it on a J train at 2 o'clock in the morning. So
Mhm.
you did that, and then when springtime come around, you realize I want to get a new body. I want to go to the beach. So I don't need you no more. And so you kind of had this like, May to December romance type thing. Um, but you don't have that now. Like people count relationships in like their sexual encounters. Well, I was with this person. I seen him. I dated him, and it's just like no. And we talked to those people too. I don't remember not the only one time I had an issue with the one night stand was I was in a shoe store. This man clearly didn't know I was still in high school. And I was in a shoe store with my mother buying shoes. I forgot what was going on the occasion, but I was buying shoes and we went to Delancey Street and got a suit. Long story. But he just like spoke to me in the store. My mother, my aunt were there, and I was like, I don't know him. They were like, oh, because he said your name. I was like, I don't know who that is. Bruh, like you should realize I'm clearly here with my mama and my auntie, and you're trying to ask me how I'm doing. And you a grown man that work at the shoe store, and I'm supposedly never been in this shoe store before. Could you not try to talk to me now because this is not really good? Um, but you had those connections. But other than that, if I saw somebody, I always spoke.
Mhm.
Sometimes guys they just don't speak at all. You're just like, oh come on, it's not that serious.
Right. Because you know what? My whole thing is like we both grown. We both grown. So I'm gonna speak. And if you don't like the fact that I spoke to you, don't speak back because I'll never speak again.
Right.